The FIA has revealed the decisions made on the potential penalties following the chaotic Brazilian Grand Prix. 6 drivers were summoned to the stewards after the race for various different reasons. Both George Russell and Lewis Hamilton were summoned to the stewards after Mercedes were seen change the tyre pressure of both W15s on the grid after the aborted start. The FIA has fined Mercedes €10,000, €5,000 for each incident. The FIA explained why this was not a disqualification, which it would usually be. The gate to access the grid was not immediately opened. The FIA accepted that given this short notice, it was extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the teams to follow the procedure prescribed in the technical directive. Carlos Sainz was handed a reprimand for dangerous driving, but no penalties were imposed. Following a collision, he removed the steering wheel before reinstalling it to attempt to return to the track, despite active recovery operations by marshals. Drivers must refrain from taking control when recovery operations are underway. Lando Norris, who started from pole position, was investigated for a potential start procedure infringement. After the race start was aborted due to Lance Stroll's crash on the first formation lap, Norris led the pack on another formation lap. However, the lights had not gone green. The FIA has given the McLaren driver a reprimand and a €5,000 fine. The FIA stated, as the driver was on the front row of the grid, this triggered following drivers to take similar action. In the opinion of the stewards, the driver, Norris, precipitated the action of the drivers on the grid directly behind him. George Russell was investigated for the same infringement as Lando Norris. As the Mercedes driver started next to Norris on the front row, he was given the same penalty of a €5,000 fine and a reprimand, as he effectively led the other drivers. Both of the carb drivers were investigated for a start procedure infringement. However, as they were clearly just following the leaders, they were not penalized, and the stewards confirmed there would be no further action. The FIA stated, in the opinion of the stewards, although the driver breached the regulation, this was influenced by the driver ahead of him, and as such, he was not predominantly responsible for the breach. The German manufacturer had been summoned to see the stewards after the Brazilian Grand Prix for allegedly having lowered the pressure of the tyres on Lewis Hamilton and George Russell's cars after their wheels were fitted following the early aborted start. This is a breach of a technical directive that has been issued to teams and states that tyre pressures can only be changed when wheels are off cars. Normally, such technical infringements trigger automatic disqualifications. But, after listening to the team's explanation, the FIA stewards elected to hand down a sanction of €5,000 for each car. This is because Mercedes successfully argued that the difficult circumstances of the event, where access to the grid is more limited than at other venues, meant it was impossible for the squad to have changed pressures before the wheels had to be fitted. With Mercedes having adjusted the pressure in line with what is allowed by the regulations, the FIA was confident that the changes had not been made to gain an unfair advantage. Its statement added, given the unusual circumstances surrounding the compressed timetable, aborted start, the grid access logistics, and given the stipulation from the technical delegate that the tyre pressures were within the correct parameters, the stewards determined that a fine for a breach of procedure is appropriate in this case. Normally, a breach of this nature within a competitive session would carry a sporting penalty, but it is not appropriate in this case. However, this decision should not be considered as a precedent for any similar breach in the future, as the circumstances are considered unique. The steward's decision means that Russell keeps his 4th place finish, while Hamilton secures his 10th spot. What do you think about FIA delivers penalty verdicts after 6 drivers summoned after Brazilian GP? Like and comments below.